What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fins Up Network. It's Ben Morgan, and today's our 2023 Miami Dolphins off-season positional preview for cornerbacks, a position that, man, we needed more from in 2022. So hopefully with new defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, help is on the way, both in scheme, in game plan, in personnel. We're going to need it all because, man, that position was our Achilles heel in 2022. So we're going to be talking about that on today's positional preview. Last positional preview I did, I knocked out the wide receiver. So if you haven't caught that one yet, go back and check it out. I'm actually rocking the Tyreek Hill shirt today. I should have wore that for the receiver video. That would have made more sense. But here we are. If you haven't checked that one out yet, go back and check it out. Get subscribed if you haven't. That way you won't miss any. Turn on those notifications. You'll know exactly when the videos are dropping. You'll be able to check out every single one of the positional previews for this offseason. But like I said, cornerbacks today. And I do want to hear from you as well. Before I get started, I'll make this quick. Let's hear from you. Do you have a free agent? Do you have an NFL draft prospect? Who do you want the Miami Dolphins to add in the secondary this year, specifically at cornerback? Well, let's jump into things right away by taking a peek back at what we were working with in 2022, because you could say that things got thin pretty fast. And given what we're working with, and especially if you're seeing the free agents that are on there now, not that they're big names by any means, but man, there's only a handful of positions that I consider to be priority must-add positions. And cornerback is damn near at the top of the list. I would say it's at the top of the list, and I'm biased as well. I want more offensive linemen. So cornerbacks and offensive linemen, but 100% cornerback. Because if you look at this grouping, there's a chance that this unit looks much different in 2023 compared to 2022. Look at Xavien Howard, Byron Jones, Kader Kohou, Noah Igbinoghene, Keion Crossen, Trill Williams, and Tino Ellis. Those are actually the only ones that are on this list that are under contract. And of that list, Xavien Howard and Kader Kohou are probably the only one that you would really trust actually even getting significant snaps. And not that you wouldn't trust Byron Jones getting snaps if he had the opportunity. I left him out of that clumping because I really don't think that there's a chance he's here in 2023. Yeah, we have a new defensive coordinator. Yeah, Byron Jones is a talented guy. I would have loved to see him play in this defense in 2022. But based on the reports that we've heard and the rumors that we've heard, Byron really did this team dirty. He probably could have come back around the bye week, and then all of these other injuries kind of popped up and kept him. And then he wasn't even around the team. The coaching staff didn't even really, it sounds like they didn't really even talk about him or talk with him. They didn't really know where he even was. So I don't think that's going to work out very well with Mike McDaniel. So I think he's as good as gone at this point in time. But if you're looking at the other guys on this list here, I got to admit, and you're probably with me on this one, what a pleasant surprise a guy like Kader Kohou was. To be an undrafted free agent, to make the team, and then to get significant snaps. Essentially, there was a game or two there when Xavien Howard missed time. He was cornerback one as an undrafted free agent cornerback out of Texas A&M Commerce, a school that no one's heard of. Raise your hand if you've heard it. You're at home raising your hand by yourself, but you're probably not because you probably haven't heard of that school. Kader Kohou, and the best thing about him, not only was he playing significant snaps, but he was playing on the boundary and in the slot. It's not like they were asking him to do just one thing. He was playing all over the field. And I got to do one thing here real quick. And then I'm going to bring that back up here so you can take a peek at it again. But Kader Kohou was great. Love what we got there. You can trust him to play significant snaps in 2023. I'm excited to see Trill Williams after the OTAs, after the training camp that he had in 2022, for him to get injured. That's kind of like the start of the downfall. The injuries just continued to just pile up and pile up. And yeah, he got hurt early. So yeah, he's coming back from a pretty serious knee injury. But at the end of the day, he got hurt so early that he's going to have damn near a full year of recovering time. So I'm excited to see that. But if I look at cornerback, this is a position that I'm all about adding in free agency and in the 2023 NFL draft. Like I said, I think it's got a chance to look pretty significantly different in 23 compared to 2022. So I'm all about adding in free agency and the draft. Let's flip to the free agent corners that we've got here. And now these corners are actually sorted on this list. It's obviously not every single free agent cornerback, but it's sorted by those who are free agents by snaps. So Patrick Peterson, obviously topping the way in number of snaps played in 2022. But if you're looking at the Dolphins roster and if you're looking at these free agents, I want to make a splash E type of signing. I don't know how much money the Dolphins actually have to make like the outright splash signing this offseason after everything they did this last year with Bradley Chubb, with Teron Armstead, with a lot of the choices they've got coming up here with a guy like Christian Wilkins. But I would prefer a guy with boundary experience because if you look at if the Dolphins are able to re-sign a guy like Nick Needham, and all signs are sort of already pointing in that direction. Obviously, there could be some competition for his services, but signs are pointing that he's interested in Miami. Miami's interested in him. So if they can bring him back, and if they've got Kader Kohou, which obviously they will, both of those guys can man the slot. So you're looking at Xavien Howard on the boundary. You got Kohou and Needham that can man the slot. We need that other boundary cornerback. So if you can land one of those guys, and look at some of these guys that I would kind of consider a splash signing for the Dolphins at cornerback. I mean, you got Jamel Dean, you got Cameron Sutton, who would be great. You got James Bradbury, Jonathan Jones. The list goes on. There's a decent class here of cornerbacks. But also, if you wanted to go another direction, maybe if you didn't want to invest quite as much money on another boundary cornerback, there's other guys that you could bring in kind of as that temporary fix and then hopefully draft a young guy as well. We'll get to the NFL draft guys here in a second and kind of let that young guy grow and develop behind guys like Xavien Howard. And maybe you get a Patrick Peterson. You get one of these more aged cornerbacks like a Marcus Peters. But honestly, end of the day, free agency, this is a must-add position for me. And I'll transition over to these NFL draft guys as well here real quick. Now, like we did for the first positional preview, these are sorted by the NFL mock draft database, all of the drafts that are sent into the database, and then it's essentially a consensus big board. So if you see a guy with a number in parentheses next to his name, that's where like the projections in rounds that they're going to be drafted were to start. And obviously it's not an exact science. These guys can flip around. Things happen during the draft, but it's a good thing to go off of right now. But you'll see it's a solid cornerback class. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised if there's 5, 6, I don't know about 7, but you could see 6 cornerbacks realistically go in that first round. But even if there's still quality at this position in rounds 2 and 3. And I'm going to be doing numerous draft profiles for these guys that you're seeing in rounds 2 and 3 later throughout the offseason as we get closer to the NFL draft. But just to give you a couple of names to keep an eye on right now, if you're looking in that 3rd round, Hodges Tomlinson's a good guy to keep an eye on. Caillou Blue Kelly, Tyreek Stevenson for the Hurricanes fans out there. I'm sure you're familiar with him. But the guy that I'm really looking forward to diving into even more here is Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi State. So far, the tape that I've seen, I've liked everything about. Obviously, you can see the Dolphins picks there on top as well. They got a 2nd and 2/3. So if you're looking for a cornerback, that could be the sweet spot. I do want to point out an error. I'm off by like 1 draft pick just because the site I was using for draft picks didn't account for the Miami Dolphins losing their 1st round pick because of the tampering charges. So I'll promise I'll get that fixed by the next video. But a guy like Forbes, he's got a little bit of Xavien Howard in him in the sense that he's a ball hawk. He comes down with interceptions. He gets the pass breakups, which is great and everything. But, man, he is a ball hawk. He gets those interceptions, and he's got some touchdowns to go along with it as well. So I'm looking forward to diving more into him as well. But at the end of the day, there's at least a couple of names for you to look at and do a little homework on yourself up until the point that I get around to doing those individual player profiles leading up to the draft here. But that's what we've got. Like I said, I still love the idea of adding a bigger name cornerback in free agency along with the draft guy in rounds 2 or 3. Because look at Xavien Howard. He promises to be better. I don't want to say it'd be hard for him to be worse because obviously he wasn't that bad. He just wasn't the Xavien Howard that we were used to. But we saw Josh Boyer leaving him on an island more often than not. And with the amount of injuries he had the knee, he had the groin, he had the other groin. He had a lot going against him. He was asked to do more in 22 then truly he probably has his entire career. And with all the injuries, with being 29, 30 years old, that was a lot to put on Xavien Howard in 2022. So adding some more young guys to the room is definitely going to be crucial, because 2022 taught us that we need quality and we need depth, because, kind of pun intended, that secondary was our Achilles heel, and the injuries that amassed at that position were obviously where the pun comes in with the Achilles. But man, it was a rough season for that. But like I said, add in free agency, add in the draft. But like I said, I want to hear from you as well. Do you have a free agent out there that you're targeting that you'd like the Dolphins to pursue? Do you have an NFL draft guy that you've got your eye on? Go ahead, drop that in the comments. Curious to see who you are interested in as well. The next position on my to-do list for these positional previews for the offseason is the ever popular position of quarterback. So like I said, if you haven't been subscribed yet, make sure you are doing so you can get notifications when that video goes live as well. That's my time for today, Miami Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.